What's happening, guys? I am not Randy, as you can tell by the actual wonderful voice that you're hearing. It's Jerry. Randy is, I would guess, doing youth baseball things. I think that's a fair assumption.
That tracks.
Yeah, so you get me, and you get Tyler, the other man that you hear. He is not a secret to this platform. You can find him at FF Tyler O, along with you just tell the people.
Yeah, at FF Tyler O. I'm doing my DFS stuff here at DWZ. Check it out. Been cashing pretty well, and then also over at JWB Fantasy, you can find mostly my redraft content. So happy to be here on the Dynasty WarZone flagship show here, Jerry. It's been quite some time.
I know the beard is super impressive too.
Thank you.
You have turned into quite the Grizzly Adams in your age. You're aging like fine wine.
Oh, thank you very much. Someone should tell my wife.
Spoiler.
Tell my wife
Tyler
that.
actually went to the same high school. We have known each other for some time. That was a lot longer ago than I care to admit to.
It was, man. I think we might know each other for longer than we haven't in our lives at this point.
True, which is a weird thing to think about. But yeah, Mike is commenting on the hair. So the reason I am not wearing a hat and I actually did my hair is because I had to shadow at a high school in a suburb of Des Moines today, which it was fine. I woke up a lot earlier than I wanted to, and I know a lot more about the Great Depression than I knew previously. So, it is what it is. So I'm looking so dapper and goofy because I'm a hat guy. Are you normally a hat guy?
Never. Very rarely am I a hat guy. I mean, maybe I'm like going on a boat and I'm expecting there to be a lot of sun, but that's really it.
I'm a person that doesn't care about like personal grooming and like doing my hair. So
Fair.
I always I throw a hat. Like I don't ever get a haircut either.
My way around that was for like 15 years. I would just buzz my hair with like a 2-guard, so I never had to worry about anything.
That's for the most part what I do now. I just sort of like hold it here and buzz the sides just so it's not. I don't mull it too bad because I mull it when my hair grows out. But all right, let's talk Dynasty.
Let's talk football. Let's get to it.
We got to talk some news, unfortunately. So normally, we would have all the spiels and all the ads and all the. Randy's better at that than me. I'm just bullshitting. I'm a bullshit with Tyler. We're gonna talk. We have. This is not the first time we have been on a podcast together, my friend. So we're gonna roll with it.
Let's do it.
All right. So we got to talk news, which is not usually something we like to do, but Dak's coming back. CD has been okay. I've got CD in my home redraft league. I got the trophy sitting next to me. I would like to keep it, and so far at this pace, I'm not going to, which is really detrimental to my happiness, especially when both the Detroit Lions and the Michigan State Spartans are fucking putrid. But are you happy that Dak's coming back? Do you think there's a QB competition?
No.
Do you think Cooper Rush, the man, the myth, the legend himself?
No, not at all, man. Cooper Rush, there's never been a competition at all. No. Cooper Rush has performed admirably. Cooper Rush has done exactly what you want a backup quarterback to do, and that is not lose games and manage them and put the games in other people's hands, and he's done just that. I think he separated himself, possibly, Jerry, as a top 40 quarterback in the NFL, possibly. Right. That might be where he's at. That might be a little generous, but no. Dak, he looked bad his first game. Like that happened. That's true. But it was one game. We know what Dak's capable of. Gallup is back and healthy. I'm not too worried about Noah Brown settling into things. I don't know what's going on with Dalton Schultz, but we know about CeeDee Lamb. At the end of the day, we need Dak back. People have been getting by. And, you know what? Maybe Dak isn't a top 5, top 8 quarterback. But, I still believe he's got top. Right now, the quarterback landscape is trash, Jerry. The quarterback landscape is trash. So I welcome Dak back with open arms. Because I'm sitting here, looking at things, trying to figure out, what quarterbacks are going to be good. I started one league, Jerry, with Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers thinking I was absolutely gravy this year.
I don't know how that goes.
And I'm absolutely wrecked. I mean, we're looking at, Geno Smiths and Carson Wentz's. I mean, good for Trevor Lawrence is getting in the top 12. Marcus Mariota. Jared Goff is sitting at 13, and he's only played 5 games right now. Daniel Jones has cracked the top 15. It's the quarterback landscape in fantasy football is a mess right now. So, yes, I am very excited to get Dak back. I have teams with Dak on them that are very excited to get him back. I got CeeDee Lamb shares that, you're rolling. You're strutting out CeeDee Lamb right now, hoping he's a wide receiver, too. Just volume-based. But we're hoping for that wide receiver 1 upside now with Dak, right?
I think I have an unbelievable amount of Dak and CD. I've sort of built a lot of teams around them, so
Rough
I'm
start for you,
obviously
Jerry. Rough start for
yeah.
you.
Well, it has been, but that's what I mean. So that's why I need it. The one thing I will say about Cooper Rush though is that man earned himself probably an NFL paycheck for the next 8 years.
Yep.
So good for you. Like you're about
He
to be
deserves
Drew
a clipboard.
Stanton. Yeah, you're going to get the clipboard. You're going to get the money. You got the best job on the planet.
Agreed.
Now we got to talk about something that really hurts. I have a lot of Dak and I have a lot of CD, I have not been silent about my love for Hollywood Brown. And all reports are suggesting that it is not going to be good for him or for me the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's rough, man.
Do you think Hopkins is going to be I was ready to just cast him off and throw him on the old man pile and never consider him relevant again. But now he's in a situation where he's literally the only guy there. Is there a chance that he can return to form, or is this just Julio Jones 2.0?
I would say I feel like those are both outlier outcomes at this point in time, in my opinion. I think that him being a top 8, top 6 guy, I think those days are gone. But I also don't think he's going to be like a washed Julio Jones. I have him on a couple spots. You know, I wasn't really acquiring him or drafting him, but just because I have some dynasty teams that had him, you know, he is there. I think like when I look at it, he's probably going to end up settling right around. I was trying to pull up some projections I had going on, but he's probably going to end up settling right around like kind of like a fringe wide receiver 2 for me right off the bat. Definitely startable.
So worse than what Hollywood's been doing then?
Yes, worse than what Hollywood's been doing. I would not, and like I'll be honest. Like I was lower on Hollywood than the consensus going in. I was able to grab him in some redraft squads. Thankfully, to kind of like hedge my bets, and those squads have turned out nicely. I don't really have him in Dynasty at all, but yeah, I mean, I don't think he's gonna equal. If you're looking to be like, oh, Hollywood's out, let me grab Hopkins, and like he'll step right in and give me the same points. Like, no, I don't think he's that point in his career. Like Rondale's starting to break out a little bit, not like break out in the sense that he's like some hog, but like he's playing decently.
Yeah,
he's relevant. And they just got Robbie Anderson, which I'm not a big Robbie Anderson guy, but I mean, I still think there's going to be some targets there for him. You know, he's kind of like an AJ Green replacement because AJ Green is now officially toast. I thought he was toast last year; he wasn't completely toast, but yeah, I mean, I think Hopkins is more of like a wide receiver 2 option going forward, but but Hollywood was a wide receiver 1 option. So I mean, you're starting him, but you're not getting the same output.
Yeah, it's tough because I have a lot of Hollywood. So normally in this situation, that would be the person I acquire, just because they have depressed value, but I don't want to be too flush with them. But another person that we got to talk about that does not piss me off, because I do not have tons of this person. This is a person that I took just because I didn't like him and I like to diversify.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Akers.
Oh.
Is there salvaging? Like, and I mean that, like, because you can't sell him, right? Like, if you have him, you're going to get nothing for him.
Yeah, I don't even think you can get a second right now.
No, that's what I'm saying. So, like, I mean, you have to hold him, but like, what is your prediction for what he can be? Is there a spot he can land where you're happy that you still have him?
No, there's not really.
That's what I'm saying. Like if he lands in Buffalo, you're like, oh, it's Buffalo, it's a good offense. But am I really going to be excited? No.
I mean, I'm out, man. I don't even. So I have one dynasty share that I took last year, and I took one redraft share because he slipped this year. Kicking myself for not selling him, kicking myself for drafting him. There's just not like nothing is good. Like I look at what I see on the field, there's not much burst there. He has a couple flash plays where I'm like, okay, maybe he's got it, but like there's nothing about Cam Akers' game that necessarily separates him from being just another guy at this point in time. Like, and that's like kind of a tough pill to swallow. But you know, I think like there's a world when he can fall in some volume and be decent, but these hopes, like he's not an elite back. He's not a borderline elite back. Is he a good back? That's even up for question. So for me, it's just one of those things where I think you just got to hold him and hope for the best. But at the end of the day, it's like I'm not even. I'm in my bench right now. Like I am playing a lot of guys over him. So
and if you don't have him, you're not. Are you even throwing out anything to try and get him or no? Don't want.
Not for the price that people are going to want. Like
yeah.
I mean, like I think that there's a world when I think like a fair price right now would be like a second, but I'm not even paying that for it. So I'm just out on Cam Akers. I wish him the best. It's good to see him back on the field after a torn Achilles, but it's just not a piece that I'm willing to reinvest in. I mean, it was nice seeing him back on the field again, but it's not for me. I'm going elsewhere.
He's like Tyler Higbee. He had that end of the season that was really good a couple years ago. Then he had the detrimental injury, and now you've got this. There's just too much going on. So I'm with you. What about Henderson? You care about him at all?
I have a lot more Henderson because he's always been cheaper than Akers.
Yeah.
True. I mean, I do care about him. I think the usage that he's been getting it was good. Like, you love to see what we saw last week with Akers inactive and Henderson getting the role that he had. I have concerns because the Rams' offense looks like dog water right now.
Yeah, it does.
I think a lot of it has to do with that offensive line just like getting injured, and there's issues on the O line. So, but no, Henderson's a guy that I feel like in matchups, like, I'm pretty confident starting. I think, he's one of those guys where I look at him and I'm like, all right, I can plug him in as like as a safe, top 30 running back, top 20 if things fall right. So yeah, I'm here for Henderson. I think he's solid. Like, he's definitely a piece you want. He's gonna get you through bye weeks, no problem. Probably like a preferred flex.
What about dynasty-wise? You assume that they're going to replace him at some point. They tried to replace him with Cam Akers already. He's only gotten older since that moment.
Mm-hmm.
He's never shown that he's like super awesome. It feels like this is the opportunity to try and trade him to a contender if you can.
That was exactly what I was going to say. I think he's the kind of guy where, like, if I'm a contender and I'm hurting at running back, I'm sitting here thinking, like, would I move a second for Henderson? And I don't know if I love that, but right. I think there's a world like if Akers does get traded where it's worth it, because we've seen him be usable in the past, especially 100%. When Akers was hurt last year. We've seen Henderson be a fine piece. I mean, that's what that. I mean, he was a running back one for a bit there, like when Akers was out. But you also got to think that's when he was cooking. So,
right.
I'm not. He's tough. I think Mike just in the chat mentioned that he's a free agent at the end of the year. It's like I'm not like excited about, because I worry he's kind of undersized. Like, his talent's not necessarily at a level that I'm excited about him. Like, I think like Akers being hurt and him being the lead back right now in the Rams is the best situation he's going to be in.
100%.
Someone is not going to be signing Henderson to be that dude. So, I think like if you're bullish on Henderson, I think I could move a second for him if you needed to have a running back. But like, likely I'm looking elsewhere.
I mean, I think he could be a flex play on a championship level roster this year. So if you need to move the second to sort of get that person in there, I don't hate it. I mean, you're going to lose value at some point because we are at the apex value of what Darrell Henderson is going to be. Yeah, but if it can create a situation where you can win a trophy or win some money, by all means, you take that loss and you run with it.
Mm-hmm.
What about the old quarterbacks, man? Like, Brady and Rodgers have just not been the same. So I mean, I don't want to keep regurgitating the same old stuff about Tom Brady right now because he's got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the thing that has separated Tom Brady is that he has been the most locked-in athlete towards success the entirety of his career, which is why he has sustained it for so long. And it just seems like he's not. And for good reason, don't get me wrong. I mean, he is going through some life events that are tough, but also like missing the walkthrough because he went to a Robert Kraft's wedding, and then they come out and they struggle. So are we seeing the end of this? It's tough to say that.
I've been saying that for years, Jerry. Yeah, I've been saying that for years.
And as a Michigan State fan, like, I have wanted Tom Brady to fail for the last 25 years. So
this is where I'm at with Brady. I'm not counting on him anymore after this year. I'm like, right. If he comes back, that's like a bonus. It's already like he already has like 2 bonus years in my opinion. Yes, but if he plays in 2023, like, great. I'm expecting him obviously to finish the season. I look at the production towards the beginning of the season, and it's easy for me to tell myself a story about like how or why he didn't perform well. There was like Godwin injury, Julio didn't play. There were some offensive line issues, like new guys stepping in. Evans had a suspension for one of those weeks, and as of late, when all the Evans and Godwin namely are healthy, we've seen the pass attempts go up. So I'm much more much more bullish on Brady this season. He's quarterback 14 right now. I truly believe he can finish in the top 12 this year. So like as an asset, I am much more in on Tom Brady for contenders in the year 2022 than I am Aaron Rodgers, where I thought he had the ability to kind of elevate the talent around him, and that might be true to an extent. But I just don't. I think there's just not enough talent in the world that can save Aaron Rodgers at this point.
Yeah, at least not this year.
Yeah, on his team. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to get better. I like the. I won't say I like the scenario that he's in better, but it feels like he has embraced the fact that it's not going to be great, and it sort of gives me the belief that he's going to be around there for a little bit longer because he's going to want to see it through a little bit. Because like, why play this season with this group of guys if you're not going to play longer? Like if you're just going to go out with a fizzle like this, it seems weird.
Long term, I have more faith in Aaron Rodgers. Like I think there's 2 to 3 years of Aaron Rodgers, and this is the worst of maybe he plays 2 more years. But Brady, I could say this being the last year, but I like Brady a lot more. I think like unfortunately Aaron Rodgers is probably like I think he's a fine QB2. Like if you got him in your super flex or something like that, and he's your second quarterback, I think you're okay. It's not what you're expecting, and you probably don't because a lot of people thought he was going to be their QB1, so it's unfortunate. Yeah. But I think Tom Brady's gonna I've seen the last 2 weeks out of Tom Brady gives me enough hope to say like he's back to form at least this season. He's going through some things, but he's QB 14 right now. I believe he finishes in the top 12.
And here's the thing. Like if Tom Brady decided to go absolutely bananas and make a deep run in the playoffs or get to another Super Bowl, like no human being on the planet would be surprised.
No, not at all.
I mean, it would piss off a lot of the population, myself included, but it is what it is. So this is the thing. This is going to be the meat and potatoes of the podcast because this is a critical week, in my opinion, when it comes to Dynasty because we have just finished 6 weeks. We are getting to the point where standings are really starting to separate. Teams are separating themselves. You're getting an idea of who the contenders are, who, you already knew the rebuilders were going to rebuild, but now there's some teams that have trickled down into that section. So I want to analyze what we should do if we're in the middle for the most part. Because like if you're 0-6 right now or you're 1-5, you have probably planned on being that. Yeah, and if you're 6-0 or 5-0, you thought you had a good team, and you've got those guys. Like, every year there's just like that guy that's just dominant, and Lamar Jackson has been that to an extent. Justin Jefferson, yada yada yada. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're talking about the 4-2s, the 3-3s, and the 2-4s.
So, like, my question to you is: if you're like 2-4 right now, are you panicking? Like, is this the time? Like, let's say, you're 2 games back from like being in 4th or something. And let's say 3-3 will get you into the playoffs. Like you're on the cusp, right? Do you think it's too early to just bail on the season?
No, I don't think it's too early to bail on the season. I think, I think there's one thing that I always look for in these scenarios, and that's going to be like, the record is, records are important. Like they mean a lot, obviously, but I think looking at your total points for, I think is a better indication of how your team's performing. Specifically, like if you're 2-4, but like you're 5th or 6th in points for in the league, like I'm not panicking, especially if I'm like had some injuries that I've been dealing with, and just went through some buys. Like I think that's another thing to consider is like, what if you had some? What if you've been rocking like a Swift, like Swift, or I've had Dameon Pierce, or you had Amon-Ra St. Brown, or things like that. Like I think you just got to really evaluate like, has my team been healthy? I think if I'm 2-4 and I look at my squad and I'm 4th, 5th, maybe even 6th in points for, and I've been dealing with, I had some, key players on my bye weeks in week 6, and I've also dealt with a couple of key injuries to players, I'm not panicking. I have some faith that like my points for has been playoff worthy, and I've been down some guys, either buys or injuries, so I'd usually stick that out. On the flip side of that, if I'm 2-4 and I'm bottom 4 in points for, and I have basically no injuries, I'm panicking. Right. So I think that's kind of like my go-to to kind of figure that out is like, what does it look like in terms of like how my team is performing objectively, not really looking at the record.
I think that's fair. So like, what I will say is if you are in that situation where your points for is bad and your record is bad, and you've got some assets that you can move, and you decide that you want to do it, my strategy is don't go to the top guy because he's not desperate, or she. You know, they're at the top. They are sitting pretty. It's second through like fifth or sixth place. And I'm going to target them preferably with a position they either have somebody injured or they have somebody, you know, they have a thin position. And I'm going to go for anybody I have that is aging but still highly productive. The Devontae Adamses of the world and the Dalvin Cooks of the world. Like if I have any of those guys, I'm moving them. Yep. Because they can exponentially help another team. Like if you're in third place and you gain Dalvin Cook for some projects, your chances of winning increase dramatically, and they will be much more likely to do that, and you could get an increase in value and help your situation at the same time.
Yep, I'm with you 100%.
I am in a bit of a pickle in a league that we're in. The $sign league is what I'll call it. I call it the money league because it's one of my higher buying leagues. I don't know about you, and I know some of the people in the league it's chump change, but
yeah.
I didn't plan, so I punted the first year, which I always intended to do. You got second, right? You lost to Randy in the championship.
I lost to Randy in the championship last year, but luckily, Randy was feeling generous because I since it's such a high money league, I remember he had Wentz as his quarterback, and Wentz got tested positive with COVID, and you know I thought Randy had a little bit better of a team, and I went to him and asked him to split the pot. Like I'm not a huge split the pot guy. But like we're talking,
You're not,
like,
see, I'm always a split the pot
yeah,
guy.
we're talking splitting like $2,000, not like $200. So like it was much more. It was much more like, you know, all right, let's do it. And Randy agreed to split the pot. So yeah, I got second, but me and the Clamp are free rolling for the next 4 years. So I'm pretty excited.
I'm always a split the pot guy.
I mean, it's smart.
I am. So it was bad last year, which it was intended to be, and then this year. I made a ton of trades to just like win immediately because I don't like to punt 2 years. It's just not. I like to set up my second year so that I can win it. Unfortunately, Trey Lance happened week 1 or week 2, so that was great.
I got Dak Prescott, so I mean I'm not too far off.
Yeah. And Hollywood Brown just got hurt, and I didn't have any tight ends. So the thing about this league is you have to start 2, and you have hoarded them all.
Yeah. I mean, it's start 2 tight ends, and it's 1.75 points per catch. Like it's an extreme tight end premium. So yeah, we have Kelsey, Waller, and Knox. So
yeah. So and I have had none. So it was exponentially detrimental to me trying to win this year. On top of the fact that the other quarterback I have is Matthew Stafford. Well, we're going to talk about dog water quarterbacks.
God.
So it's been ugly because my running backs, because I have a ton of like all the top end guys.
You had like Dalvin and Derrick Henry. I remember looking at
Dalvin, Derrick Henry, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon, and so anyway, I made this trade so I could get some tight ends, and I traded Deshaun Watson because he wasn't helping me, and I was really like I thought I could win. And then, but I was super thin at wide receiver, and then I just lost Hollywood Brown. So now I'm like at DK Metcalf and a bunch of crumb bums and shoe clerks. So I'm in the situation where I wish I had not traded last week to try and get myself back into the playoff race, because right now I would definitely not. And I would just embrace the fact that I'm going to suck again. So now I'm on the hunt. So you just have to adjust for each situation.
Mm-hmm.
That league, man.
Are you what is your move? You're what are you 2-4?
Well, I'm stuck now because I traded my first away, so there's no tanking. So I have to trade some running backs and do exactly what I said I'm going to do, but in an effort to get wide receivers. And for the record, I put that in the chat today. Dalvin Cook on the board for a wide receiver. I got 4 offers for Kenneth Walker. Respectfully, gentlemen, went to Michigan State. Die-hard Spartan fan. I watched him play too. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, there's not enough ammo. They're not shooting enough ammo to get Kenneth Walker off.
No. And trying to get him from me. Listen, everybody is always available, but you got to know your audience at the same time. Yeah, let's see. What about if you're trying to win? Are you a stand pat guy, or are you trying to flip the first or flip younger projects?
So I'm much quicker to concede in a year, to like kind of ship it home and say I'm not going to do it this year. I'll usually let the can I win drag out, because I think selling your first has much deeper repercussions than not. I feel like you can sell assets, and that's neither here nor there for picks, but picks are so liquid that if you decide to sell your players for picks and you're tanking, there's a safety to that, right? Because you can always just kind of resell that. You can't just like get your pick back, like that's just not how that works. So essentially, I'm a stand pat guy until probably like week 8, 9, 10. If I can get into the playoffs, because I think that if you're looking to acquire like some aged veterans, in my opinion, they're cheaper. They're cheaper when you're trying to get them in week 9, week 10, week 11 than they are in week 4, 5, or 6. So if I can hold that out, I'm really weary about moving my picks too early. I've made that mistake years ago. Thought I was good to go. Injuries crushed me. Then I was just like, my team was shitty and I didn't have my first or second pick next year, and it's like, there's no worse feeling, Jared.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, so for me, it's like I am very much like I'm going to make sure that I'm like pretty much locked for the playoffs. And then once I'm like essentially locked for the playoffs, I'll make a lot of moves to, start acquiring some veterans who, I think can help me over the next couple of weeks that I believe would be cheaper, in the middle of the season or week, 9 or 10 than, I guess it is the middle of the season, than, the earlier week. So I definitely blow up teams earlier, and I, kind of shore up the teams a bit later.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I am, in general, a person that doesn't trade my first round pick during the season. Like, I just, because of what you said, like, there's a lot of things that you can do when you're playing Dynasty that will just break your heart. But the one when you don't make the playoffs and then you get to the rookie draft and you don't have a pick, and you're looking at your roster and you're realizing that it's less likely that you're going to be able to make it better, that is a kick in the junk that is just almost uncomparable to just about anything else that can happen.
Yeah.
Aside from Derrick Henry goes down after he's leading you to a championship last year. But that's what I'm saying. Like, so I'm with you, because like you said, like, they just don't lose value, right? Yeah. Like they don't get handies. They don't kick anybody in a club. They don't drunk drive. They don't do any of that stuff. They remain stable forever, and they will always retain that value, and you can use it at any point to exploit it. And if you do it too early, right, you're occasionally the season does not go on.
Yeah, and those picks, like, the value just goes up the closer you get to the draft. So it's like I'll move my first round pick, in the season if it means like I'm genuinely moving. Like for example, like if Derrick Henry's still healthy, like I would move my first in week 9 or 10 for like a Derrick Henry. Like he's the kind of player that's going to put you over the top. Like that's the kind of thing that I would do. But like I'm trying not to, because that first round pick is worth so much more in, once the combine happens and people are talking about rookies, and all of a sudden like your pick is worth so much more, because we have no fantasy football, so all we're doing is talking about our rookie picks and the players we can take with them. So it's just like, acquiring picks is usually the move in season, and then selling them out of season if you want to is usually the way I want to go. I mean, that's not always the way that, my team can dictate that, but that's generally how I look at it.
I mean, listen, our listener numbers would suggest that most people care about the rookie picks, if it says anything. So yeah, I've seen how much you guys listen to us in October versus May. So I know that to be true. How are your teams going? How many leagues are you in?
22.
Okay.
22 leagues. Generally, things are good. I think I'm sitting like right above like 60% win percentage across. Probably closer to like 65% if you take out a couple of the rebuilds, because like I'm purposely trying to lose those. But I would say like generally things are good. I made some like bad moves, savvy moves. I think like a couple things that I did this off season that I think really helped me. One was like I was able to move a couple Deontay Johnson shares. That was something that I think set me up really well. I was concerned with what, no Ben Roethlisberger, the offensive coordinator, a new quarterback who was either a rookie that I had no faith in, or Trubisky, who I also have no faith in, Pickens, who I love, and Matt Canada, who we don't know is going to be. So I got out on some Steelers pretty early this offseason, which was really helped me in a couple of weeks. I was a pretty big Deontay Johnson stan prior to this year. So
See, I was not, so I'm sort of just fortunate that it has worked out in my favor that way. But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I mean, he's gotten
a lot of targets.
He's gotten some, but like,
yeah, it's just not doing much of that. It's tough, man.
Does he even have a touchdown this year? Do you know?
I don't think.
I don't think so. Maybe one.
Yeah, not enough to be excited about because he's been getting like 12 points a game on like 10 targets, which is just awful, man. You know, while we're on, I actually was curious. I want to pick your brain on this one, Jerry. It's like, what the hell are we doing? I mean, I don't have him, but what are we doing with Najee, man? What the hell is happening with Najee Harris, man? Because, like, I don't know if, like, my apologies if you've covered this recently on this podcast, because, like, this is, I think, is, like, not enough people are talking about it right now, that, like, Najee Harris was, like, a consensus top 5, top 3 dynasty running back going into this season, man. And, like, all of a sudden, like, now we're sitting here in, what is it, week, after he's running back 23 on the year, and it's, like, I don't, like, necessarily see this getting better for Najee. Like,
I had him as Dynasty 2.
Yeah, I think I had him like 4 or 5. I mean, I don't have him anywhere, thankfully, because of that, but still, it's like...
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple shares, and as you can imagine, not going well. I think my Warrior Bowl team has Najee, and it is not awesome. I'm with you, though. I don't know that it's going to get better. The only silver lining you have is that he's still getting touches. The problem is it's... for what, like 19 carries for 45 yards, or it's touchdown or bust. I mean, it's been gross on a level that's almost incomparable with anybody else. I mean, you have to hope they address the offensive line. But
Jerry, I mean, like he hasn't gone in half PPR, Jerry. He hasn't gone over 12 points all season long, and he's had like games with 18 carries. 14 carries, 15 carries, 15 carries. I mean, he's had...
As much as people want to shit on Ezekiel Elliott, that's Ezekiel Elliott, but worse. Right? Like,
I've not heard that. It's a good one.
Getting 17, 18 touches and just getting like 65 yards, but like, it's been gross.
They're sitting back to back. They're both low end running back twos right now. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, can you sell him off a name value right now, though?
Do you? I mean, I would if I could. If I could get a first for Najee Harris, I would sell him for a first. Is that hot? Because I don't think it is.
I don't know. That might not be hot.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like we need to talk about Najee because it's like people were buying him for like 2 firsts, man. And if he's the top 5 dynasty RB, he's worth 2 firsts. And now we're getting to a point where like I'm not buying him for a first. Like if I would not send my first for Najee Harris. I would not do that on any team.
That sounds super spicy, but
it does.
I don't think it's egregious because
I wouldn't. I would sell him for a first.
Because the only thing that you're really hoping for is that you can sell him based on his name for more to somebody else because the production just does not suggest it.
The volume hasn't really gone away, man. He's still getting great volume. It's just like the team sucks, the offensive line sucks. I've never thought Najee was elite. So I mean, like it's just one of those things where like. If we're talking about Najee being like a low-end RB2, I'm not buying talent. Like I don't think he's an elite talent. He was up that high because of the volume that we thought was going to be locked in was going to be good. So, yeah, I mean, I was just like thinking about this. I'm like, I wouldn't be buying Najee for a first, and I would be selling him for a first, and I'm trying to get out while I can with the name recognition.
My God. So, like, who do you think the worst running back is that you'd take for Najee?
Straight up?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Is this going to make it worse? Is this going to make you hate him?
I'm like going through these names right now, and like 2 names come to mind where I'm like, would I take these guys straight up over Najee?
Would you take the older guys?
I would take the older guys, probably, yeah. I would take some of the older guys over Najee, yeah. Like, I mean, obviously Barkley, CMC, Eckler, Chubb. I would take Fournette right now over Najee.
I don't think that's crazy.
I think 2 names that aren't crazy that I think are worth having a conversation about, and this is more of a question. This isn't me saying I'm doing it, but Dameon Pierce and Ramondre Stevenson.
See, I have never been a Stevenson guy, and he's made
I'm
me
not
look
either.
Stupid. But he's made me look stupid. So
I just think that am I overreacting? Like I remember like people on Twitter. I can't remember who it was. Like 2 years ago, they went like Mike Evans had a couple bad games, and they're like sell him for a second, and I'm like, that's. And then he turned out to be elite still. But it's a wide receiver position. Like, but I also know Mike Evans is elite. Like to me, like nothing that I've seen from Najee Harris on the field has showed me that he's an elite running back. I've always talked about Najee being like a Jag plus. Like he's just another guy plus. He just like was locked in a good offense with great volume. So it's like now, I don't know. I'm just I'm being too hasty.
The question is what could make it better? But the question, like that question is sort of flawed because he's getting the opportunity. So is Kenny Pickett going to make it better? I would say no because he hasn't so far. Now, granted, he's younger and he can get better, and maybe when there is a threat to get the ball down the field a little bit more, maybe it can open it up for him a little bit. But how long is that going to take? And that's going to be with a young, old Kenny Pickett. So I don't.
Yeah, I mean he's 13th right now in rush attempts. Like,
I think the best thing that could happen for him is he really? God damn. If George Pickens can end up being a star, and maybe he can stretch the field a little bit so that teams have to focus on George Pickens as if he's like a DK Metcalf-esque talent, then maybe. But you're grasping at straws when you do that. So I don't know. It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I got another play for it. We're going off the rails here, Jerry, but I'm more interested to see what you're saying. Another player that I think is fell from grace, that I think is in a worse spot right now, is Elijah Moore. I felt like he was a dynasty darling, top 24, pretty much across the board. I think I looked at some point in time his dynasty consensus was like wide receiver 21 for a couple months this offseason. And then you look at it right now, and Elijah Moore is wide receiver 77. He hasn't missed a single game. He's tied with Sterling Shepard for 27.9 points on the year, but Sterling Shepard's only played 3 games. Traquan Smith has more points. Dante Pettis has more points. And the thing is like he's not hurt. He's playing. He's running routes. And I think what people love this talk about how vacated targets, and targets are earned, Jerry. You have to earn your targets in the NFL. If you're a good wide receiver, you earn targets. Well, Elijah Moore's healthy. He's on the field. He's running a fuck ton of routes. But guess what? He isn't earning anything. So what does that say?
Literally nothing last week.
Yeah, no target. He didn't earn a single target last week. So I think to myself, I'm just like, I've sold my Elijah Moore shares after I saw Garrett Wilson, because I was kind of already a Garrett Wilson over Elijah Moore guy, but I didn't have it that way in my dynasty rankings preseason. I didn't have the balls to do that, but I was kind of on there already. But after the first couple weeks, man, I was like, I got to move these Elijah Moore shares. I've moved my shares. I have 0 Elijah Moore shares. But I also think it's you can't really sell him either. I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on Elijah Moore, because right now it's he's not even a flex. I mean, he's like a bench stash at best.
Yeah, I think that's what he has to remain, though, because this offseason I called the Jets pass catchers sort of my biggest unknown, because I didn't know who was going to emerge. I assumed Zach Wilson was going to grow and somebody was going to emerge, and I tended to lean Elijah Moore, just because he showed that little bit of flash. He, we talked about Tyler Higbee. He was even a smaller scale than Tyler Higbee was, because he only did it 2 or 3 games. No, you just stash him. That's all you can do. Because I mean, at least Najee he was a 101, and 101s retain value even if they're poop. I mean, Corey Davis had value for 4 years, and he never did anything to help you.
Yeah, but he was a second round. Elijah Moore's second round pick.
And for those of you that are newer to Dynasty, when I say Corey Davis was a 101, I mean there was a heated debate over him or Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey. That was a real thing. And Elijah Moore, like you said, was a second round pick. So, can you really get anything? No. I think if you tried to get him, you'd be trading somebody who's just like him. Somebody that, maybe they'll hit, or maybe they'll do nothing. But Devin Duvernay is doing more than he is right now, I would guess. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but he's been relatively productive.
Absolutely.
So, are you trading Elijah Moore to get Devin Duvernay? I don't think that's entirely crazy, especially with what Garrett Wilson's been able to do. And Corey Davis, to bring it back to him, has actually sort of been productive this year.
He always is going to be productive, man. He's a good enough receiver.
He's just never going to be the man I wanted him to be. Row the boat.
He's a wide receiver 3, man. He's just a wide receiver 3.
He's just like he's like Walmart brand vanilla ice cream. Like it's like you're happy you got ice cream, but it's not even good flavor that you want.
You're okay putting him in your flex if you're not contending, but if you're contending, he's on your bench.
Yeah, when you're rebuilding, he's the guy you just plug in just because you need a body there.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, man. You wanna do anything else, or you wanna wrap this one up?
We can wrap it up, man. I'm good. Feel great. It's always good chatting with you, getting some dynasty thoughts in there.
I think the Najee thing is interesting, and
it is.
I'm gonna bring it up with Randy again later, just because me and him both tooted that horn. I think he had him as RB3. I definitely had him as RB2 this offseason. Oh, actually, you know what? One more guy, DeAndre Swift. We're both Lions fans.
Yes, let's do it.
What are we gonna do with DeAndre Swift? Like, he's clearly awesome, but he doesn't play.
Yeah, I mean, I think I still got him like running back like 6 or 7, maybe 5. I have to take a look. I believe in him. I mean, maybe it's my Lions bias, but like I'm holding pat. He's got the burst. Like, yeah, the volume isn't necessarily elite, but I think he has a good role. Like it kind of sucked at the beginning of the year because like last year his role was very much like pass game and red zone, and like we love that. Those are the high value touches. But like this year, the passing work was there, but they were giving Jamal Williams, when they're both healthy, a lot more of the goal line stuff, which you hate to see as the Swift.
And he's been highly effective at it, so you could assume.
Yeah, I'm probably staying pat on Swift. I'm not necessarily going out there looking to purchase him, but I have concerns. But it's like I don't really know who I'm going to put ahead of him. Is really what it comes down to. So
I think you don't want to sell him, but he's also a tough person. He's a tough person to buy too, just because
they're coming off an injury.
If you watch him play, dude's awesome. Like, I mean, dude took a nap on the field and still ended up scoring a touchdown against the Commanders. So, I mean,
there we go.
All right, though, man. Let's get out of here. It was quick. It was painless, except for the Najee thing. That's a little painful. But I'm Jerry. He's Tyler. Peace out, homies. Here, you know what? Here, Randy will be upset if I don't say, here at the Dynasty WarZone, we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. Peace out.